poor single dad let a lost girl stay the night. He never expected her father to be a millionaire. Daniel lived in a small metal house at the edge of Colony Ring 7. The colony sat on a dry world with red soil and long winds. Dust often moved like thin smoke across the streets. Most people there worked hard jobs and earned just enough to eat and pay for air and water. Daniel was one of them. He was a repairman. He fixed old heaters, broken doors, farm drones, and sometimes small cargo carts. His hands were rough and often cut by sharp metal. He did not complain. He had a young son to raise. His son Leo was 8 years old. Leo was thin, bright, and always full of questions. He liked to watch ships in the sky and guess where they were going. He also liked to take apart small toys and try to build them again. Many times he failed, and Daniel would help him. They laughed when the toy finally worked. Life was simple and tight. Some nights they ate only soup and bread. Some weeks Daniel had to work extra hours in the repair yard. Still, he tried to smile for Leo. Since Leo's mother died from a sickness 3 years ago, Daniel felt he must be both father and mother. One evening, the wind was very strong. It hit the walls and made low sounds like a far animal. Daniel and Leo were eating thin soup at their small table. The lights flickered because the colony power grid was old again. Leo looked at the ceiling. "Do you think ships get scared in storms?" he asked. Daniel smiled a little. "Ships are strong, but the people inside can be scared." A loud knock came at the door. Daniel frowned. No one visited this late. Most people stayed inside during dust storms. He stood up and walked to the door. Leo watched quietly. The knock came again, slow but firm. Daniel opened the door a little. Red dust blew in. In the weak light outside stood a small girl. She looked about 9 or 10. Her hair was dark and messy from the wind. Her clothes were clean but strange. But the fabric looked smooth and shiny like high-quality synth cloth, not something poor colony kids wore. Her eyes looked tired but calm. "Sir," she said softly, "I am lost. Can I stay inside for a night?" Daniel blinked in surprise. He looked left and right. The street was empty. No adult, no guard, no transport. "Where are your parents?" Daniel asked. The girl hesitated. "I cannot find them right now." Leo stepped closer, curious. Daniel thought for a moment. He barely had enough food for 2. Taking in a stranger was risky. But she was just a child, and the storm was getting worse. He opened the door wider. "Come in before the dust gets worse." The girl stepped inside quietly. She looked around the small home like it was a museum. Her eyes paused on simple things: the old heater, the cracked wall screen, the hand-washed cups. Leo smiled at her. "I am Leo. What is your name?" "Mira," she answered. Daniel gave her a cup of water. She held it carefully like she was not used to simple metal cups. She drank slowly. "You can sit," Daniel said. "We only have soup." "That is fine," Mira said. She sounded polite, but also unsure, like this was new to her. They shared the soup. Mira ate slowly but seemed very hungry. Leo talked about school and the broken learning tablets. Mira listened with real interest, like his simple stories were special. Daniel watched her. Her speech was clear and calm, not like most kids from the worker zones. Also, her boots were clean and strong, made for long travel. Something felt odd. After eating, Daniel prepared a small sleeping mat for her. Leo offered his extra blanket. "You can use it," Leo said. "Nights get cold." Mira looked at him with surprise. "Thank you." Before sleep, Mira asked a strange question. "Do you believe some people live among the stars, not on planets?" Daniel shrugged. "Rich people do. Traders. Officials. Not people like us. Mira looked down and said nothing more. The house grew quiet. The storm slowly softened. Daniel lay on his bed but did not sleep fast. His mind stayed alert. Taking in a stranger child could bring trouble. Still, he felt he did the right thing. Hours later, a faint humming sound woke him. Daniel opened his eyes. The room was dark. The sound came again, like a tiny insect, but smooth and electric. He sat up and looked toward the main room. A soft blue light glowed there. He stood and walked quietly. Leo was asleep. The light came from Mira's small bag near her mat. The bag was slightly open. Daniel leaned closer. Inside, a small round device floated in the air above the bag. It was no bigger than an apple. Thin lines of light moved across its surface. It made the humming sound. Daniel's eyes widened. He had repaired many machines, but this tech was too advanced for common colony use. The device suddenly projected a thin beam upward. It passed through the roof like it was not blocked by solid metal. A signal. Daniel quickly stepped back. His heart beat faster. Was it a tracker? A beacon? The device dimmed and gently dropped back into the bag. The humming stopped. Daniel looked at Mira. She appeared asleep, breathing slow. Maybe she did not know the device was active, or maybe she knew everything. Daniel returned to his bed but slept lightly after that. Morning came with pale orange light through dusty windows. The storm had passed. Colony sounds returned, carts moving, people calling, distant engines. Mira woke early and folded the blanket neatly. Leo liked her at once and started showing her his small box of spare parts and toy pieces. Daniel cooked simple grain cakes. Mira watched how he mixed water and powder. She tried to help, but clearly had never cooked like this. A loud sound came from outside. A transport vehicle stopped on the street. That was not normal for their poor area. Daniel peeked through the window. 3 tall figures in dark suits stepped out. Their clothes were clean and sharp. Each wore a small device over one eye. They carried scanning tools, officials, or something higher. Daniel's stomach tightened. They moved house to house, scanning doors and walls. People looked nervous. No one in this zone liked attention from powerful groups. One of the figures spoke to a neighbor. Daniel could not hear the words, but the neighbor pointed down the street, toward Daniel's home. Daniel stepped back from the window. Mira noticed his face. "Who is outside?" she asked. Daniel spoke low. "Do you know anyone in dark suits looking for a child?" Mira froze for a tiny moment. Then she looked down. Leo sensed tension. "Are they bad people?" Mira answered softly. "They are looking for me." Daniel felt a cold wave in his chest. Why would people like that look for you? Mira did not answer fully. "They want to take me back." A knock came at the door, hard and official. Daniel whispered to Leo, "Take Mira to the back room. Stay quiet." Leo nodded and led Mira away. Daniel opened the door slightly. One suited figure stood there. His face was calm but strict. "We are searching for a missing child," the man said. "Our scan shows a faint signal near this home." Daniel forced a tired smile. "Only me and my son here." "You can look." The man lifted his scanner. It hummed. The device showed a weak, blinking light. The man frowned. "Strange," he said. At that moment, a neighbor shouted down the street about a broken water pipe. The suited figures turned their heads. The man looked back at Daniel. "If you see a girl alone, report to the central post. There is a reward." "I understand," Daniel said. The man nodded and walked away. Daniel closed the door slowly. Sweat ran down his back. He went to the rear room. Mira stood there, quiet but not crying. "You bring danger to my house," Daniel said. Not angry, just honest. Mira looked at him. "I am sorry. Am, I did not think they would reach here so fast." "Who are you really?" Daniel asked. Mira opened her bag. The small floating device rose again. This time it formed a tiny image in the air, a spinning star map. Lines connected planets and stations. Leo's eyes grew wide. "That is so cool." Mira spoke softly. "My father owned ships, stations, trade routes. Many people work for him. He's very rich." Daniel stared at the map. This was deep space network data, not for normal citizens. "He sent those people?" Daniel asked. "Yes," Mira said. "But they are only the first layer." Daniel did not like how she said that. Above the colony, hidden beyond the clouds, a small silver shape moved silently in orbit. And far away, someone else had also received Mira's signal. Someone who did not plan to return her home kindly. Daniel looked at the two children in his small home and felt a heavy sense that his simple life had just stepped into something large and dangerous. Outside, high in the sky, a distant object blocked a few stars for a brief second before vanishing again. Daniel woke before sunrise. The colony was quiet, but he felt restless. Mira slept in the back room on the small mat, while Leo had already started tinkering with his broken toy drones. The storm had left streets coated in red dust, and the early sun made the metal walls of the colony glint. Daniel knew he had to plan. The suited agents had been near his house yesterday, and he had no way to know if they would return today. He quietly went to Mira's room. She was awake, sitting cross-legged, watching the small floating device spin slowly above her bag. Her eyes followed the tiny lines of light that connected distant planets and moons. Daniel swallowed hard. He still could not believe that such advanced technology existed in his home now. "They will come back," he said softly, careful not to startle her. "You cannot stay here forever." Mira nodded, but she looked calm. "I know, but I wanted to see what life is like for normal people. I wanted to be somewhere quiet." Daniel thought about it. He had never imagined a child from the wealthy and powerful side of humanity would be curious about his small life. He felt a mix of worry and wonder. "We have to be careful," he said. "People like those agents do not leave easily." Leo, still half asleep, looked up. "Who are they again?" he asked. "The ones in black? They are looking for Mira," Daniel said. "They work for her father." Leo's eyes widened. "Her father? Is he rich?" "Yes," Mira said softly. "Very rich. He owns ships and stations and fleets across many systems." Daniel raised his eyebrows. "Fleets? You mean like space fleets?" Mira nodded. "Yes, he has technology far beyond this colony, but I did not want to go back. I wanted to live normally for a little while." Daniel studied her. There was a seriousness in her eyes that was rare for children. "You should not have come alone," he said, more as a warning than a scold. Mira only looked down. "I could not stay with the guards. I wanted to choose." Daniel did not argue. He could see that she was brave, but he also felt the weight of danger pressing on them. Suddenly, a loud hum filled the air outside. Daniel froze. He went to the window and peered through the dusty glass. A small hovering drone zipped across the street, scanning the houses. Daniel recognized the pattern. These were not ordinary colony patrols. They were advanced scouts, fast and precise. They are here again, he whispered. Leo ran to the window. Can they see us? Daniel shook his head. Not yet, but we cannot wait. You and Mira need to hide. Mira looked at him calmly. I can stay quiet. They will not know. Daniel's hands moved quickly. He pulled old boxes and sheets from the storage corner to cover the back room entrance. Stay down. Make no sound. I will distract them if needed. The drone slowed and hovered near their street. Daniel watched as it scanned homes one by one. He felt a cold chill. The city's poor areas were usually ignored, but Mira was no ordinary child. Daniel realized that anyone who wanted her would not stop easily. After a long minute, the drone moved closer to Daniel's house. Its sensors flickered with lights, scanning the exterior walls. Daniel's heart pounded. He whispered a prayer that it would move on. Inside, Mira's device buzzed quietly. Daniel froze. The small, spinning star map projected a faint signal upward. He felt his stomach tighten. She was sending a signal, even if she did not mean for it to be detected. The drone paused and emitted a soft beep. Daniel held his breath. Then, after a long moment, it zoomed off down the street. Daniel exhaled, relief mixing with tension. That was close, he muttered. Leo peeked from the back room. What was that? A search drone, Daniel said. It's looking for Mira. Mira's eyes were serious. They will come again. Faster next time. Daniel nodded. He knew she was right. The child had no idea what dangers she carried with her. He also knew that his small repair skills and colony smarts might be the only thing standing between them and capture. He returned to the main room. Mira followed quietly. Can we leave? She asked. Before they find me again? Daniel thought. Leaving the colony was dangerous. The streets were open and anyone could see them. But staying in his house was also risky. We will need a plan, he said. Somewhere to hide until it is safe. Mira tilted her head. Do you know anywhere? Daniel thought quickly. He had friends in the lower districts, old workshops, abandoned factories, places where sensors were weak and patrols rarely went. He had not used them in years, but now they might be their only refuge. There is an old repair yard outside the city, he said. It is abandoned. We can hide there for a while. Mira nodded. Then let's go. They gathered what they could carry. Mira's device floated quietly, still projecting tiny lights. Leo took a small bag with his tools and toys. Daniel carried a toolbox. They slipped out the back door while the city slowly came to life under the rising sun. The streets were dusty and empty early in the morning. Daniel led them carefully through alleys and side streets. Mira moved silently, almost like she had done this before. Leo, despite being small, followed bravely, trusting his father completely. From a distance, Daniel saw movement. Another figure in black, larger than the scouts, was walking down the street with a scanning wand. He stopped at intersections, looking around. Daniel ducked into a shadowed alley. They are scanning houses, he whispered. We must move quickly. Mira's device buzzed again. Daniel noticed that it sent out tiny pulses, almost like a heartbeat in the air. He realized that the people looking for her could detect these signals if they were close. He whispered to Mira, "Turn it off. Now." Mira quickly lowered the device. The spinning star map collapsed into the bag. I will be careful, she said. Daniel led them further into the lower alleys. The air smelled of hot metal and dust. Occasionally a cart passed, but no one looked at them. After 20 minutes of careful walking, they reached the edge of the city where old factories sat, rusted and empty. This is it, Daniel said. We can hide here for a while. No patrols go this far. The three entered the abandoned repair yard. Broken machines and half-finished drones were scattered everywhere. Shadows of tall metal frames created hiding spots. Mira's eyes lit up. "It is like a secret place," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "It will be our safe zone. For now, we can repair things, rest, and think of the next step." Leo ran to a broken drone. "Look, Papa, I can fix it." His hands moved quickly, connecting wires and tightening screws. Mira watched, genuinely impressed. Daniel set down the toolbox and took a deep breath. "We cannot stay here forever," he said. "They will search everywhere eventually." Mira approached him. "I know, but I trust you, Daniel. You keep us safe." Daniel felt a lump in his throat. He was not used to praise from strangers, especially from someone like her. "I will do my best," he said. They spent the day repairing broken drones and talking quietly. Mira shared stories of distant planets, gleaming cities, and ships that moved faster than sound. Leo listened with wide eyes, imagining a world far beyond the red dust and metal walls of their colony. Evening came and the sky turned deep orange. Daniel kept watch as Mira and Leo played quietly. The city lights flickered on far away, but their small yard was dark and silent. The tension of the morning had not gone, but for a moment there was calm. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed through the sky. A distant vehicle flew low, moving faster than normal colony transport. Its shadow stretched across the factory walls. Daniel stiffened. "They are coming," he whispered. Mira looked at him without fear. "Then we must be ready." Daniel realized that life for a poor repairman and his son had just changed forever. They were now part of a much larger world, one with wealth, power, and dangers beyond imagination. But he also felt a strange determination. No matter how advanced the people chasing them were, he had his wits, his knowledge of machines, and his courage. He turned to the children. "Stay close. Tonight we fight with our minds, not our hands." Mira nodded, and Leo held tightly to his father's hand. The sky darkened above them, and in the distance a small ship moved closer to the colony. It glinted in the fading sun, silent and precise. Daniel knew that their simple life had ended, and a dangerous, thrilling chapter had just begun. In that moment, the poor repairman, the clever girl, and the curious boy prepared to face a world that was much larger and more dangerous than any of them had ever imagined. The adventure was only beginning. Daniel crouched behind a broken drone frame, listening to the soft hum of the approaching ship. Mira and Leo stayed close, hiding in the shadows. The old repair yard was quiet, except for the occasional creak of metal in the wind. Daniel's mind raced. He had faced difficult repairs, angry customers, and storms, but nothing like this. These people were not just after money or machines. They were after Mira. And he still did not fully understand why. Mira, sitting next to him, quietly unpacked her small bag. The floating device hovered again, spinning slowly above her hand. "They are not like the patrols you see in the city," she said softly. "They can track almost anything. I ran away because I needed to see what normal life was like. But now they will not leave me alone." Leo, gripping Daniel's hand, whispered, "Are they going to take her?" His small voice trembled, but his eyes were wide and curious. Daniel took a deep breath. "We will not let that happen. We are smart, they are fast and well-equipped, but we know these streets better. That is our advantage." Mira nodded. "I can help." She paused, staring at her device. "I can send a signal to my father's fleet. They will come for me. But They will also come for the city if I send it. I do not want that. You mean if your father finds you, it could be dangerous for everyone? She nodded. Yes, he is powerful. Some people might not understand normal life. Some might see the city as weak or unimportant. Daniel considered this. Mira's father sounded dangerous in a different way. Powerful, capable, and disconnected from ordinary people. Daniel realized that Mira's simple desire to see life as normal had unexpectedly brought danger to the colony. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the broken metal walls. Daniel's heart pounded. A tall figure in black stepped into the yard. The person held a scanning wand that emitted a faint blue glow. Daniel froze. The figure scanned slowly, deliberately. It stopped near where Mira crouched. Mira held her breath. Daniel whispered, "Do not move." The figure turned slightly and passed, but Daniel could see the scanning wand flicker as if it detected something unusual. The person stopped and spoke into a small device. Daniel could not hear the words, but the tone was cold, efficient. After a moment, the figure moved on, leaving the yard empty again. Daniel exhaled. That was close, he muttered. Mira looked at him. They are getting smarter. Daniel nodded. He needed a plan. They could not stay here forever. They needed to move before more came. We will leave tonight, he said. We will head toward the lower tunnels, old transport tunnels. Nobody uses them now. They are long but safe. Mira agreed. I know them. When I escaped the city before, I followed them for a while. They lead to places where people hide. Daniel was surprised. You have been here before? Yes, she said. I have explored many places, but always under watch. I wanted to see how humans live when they are free. Daniel studied her. She was brave, but this was a dangerous kind of bravery. He realized that her calmness was not fearlessness, but understanding of risk. As night fell, the three prepared to leave. Mira's device stayed in the bag. Leo carried a small backpack with his tools. Daniel took a wrench and a makeshift light. They slipped quietly through the factory gates, moving along side streets and shadowed alleys. The city seemed asleep, but Daniel knew it was not. They moved fast and carefully, avoiding main roads and patrol drones. Mira led the way when they reached the edge of the city, where the old transport tunnels began. The entrance was hidden behind piles of scrap metal and abandoned cargo crates. Daniel cleared a path and peered inside. It was dark, damp, and smelled of oil and rust. The tunnels were wide enough for small transport vehicles, but quiet enough that footsteps echoed softly. Mira stepped in first. This way, follow me. She led them through the twisting passages. Daniel kept his eyes alert, listening for sounds outside. Leo ran his fingers along the walls, fascinated by the texture and the old markings that told stories of past workers. Hours passed as they moved deeper into the tunnels. Occasionally, they passed empty vehicles and broken machines. Mira explained that these tunnels connected the lower parts of the city and were once used for moving supplies between colonies. Now, most were abandoned. Daniel felt relief. They were safe for now, but he knew it was temporary. Mira's father's people were powerful and determined. And there was another danger, those who wanted to capture her for profit, independent of her father. Finally, they stopped in a larger chamber, filled with old machinery and crates. Daniel and Mira set up a small space to rest. Leo immediately ran to a corner to examine broken robot parts, pretending to play to hide his anxiety. Mira looked at Daniel. We cannot hide here long, she said. They will find signals eventually. Daniel nodded. Then we prepare. We watch, we listen, and we fight with what we know. Mira hesitated. I know they will come. Some are not like humans, you know. They can be cruel and patient. Daniel frowned. Then we must be smarter than them. We have tools, machines, and knowledge. And courage. You have courage too, Mira. That helps. Leo looked up at them. Will they hurt us? His small voice was honest, without fear, but full of concern. Daniel knelt and looked into his son's eyes. We will not let them. We fight, we hide, and we survive. That is what humans do. Mira watched quietly. For the first time, she felt a strange sense of trust in this poor man and his son. They were simple, not rich or powerful, but they were clever and brave. She realized that maybe this life she had come to see was stronger than any wealth or fleet her father could give her. Suddenly, a faint vibration shook the tunnel floor. Daniel tensed. Mira's device pulsed softly. He looked at her. They are close. You see? Mira nodded. Yes, they have trackers. They will sweep through the tunnels. Daniel thought fast. The old machinery around them could be used as cover. Broken robots, conveyor belts, and crates could hide them. He whispered instructions to Mira and Leo. Stay low. Move when I tell you. Make no sound. Breathe slowly. The sound of footsteps echoed down the tunnels. A group of figures appeared in the distance, wearing black suits and carrying scanners. They spread out, covering the width of the tunnel. Daniel held his breath. Mira crouched behind a crate, Leo behind her. The figures scanned slowly, moving closer. Daniel saw one stop near a broken vehicle. He realized that if they found Mira, it would be immediate capture. He had to act. He spotted a loose metal panel nearby. Quickly, he lifted it and slid it across the floor. The sound of scraping metal echoed, catching the attention of the nearest figure. It moved toward the sound. Daniel motioned for Mira and Leo to follow him silently through the shadows. The figure passed the panel and turned back. Daniel exhaled softly. They moved quickly and quietly deeper into the tunnels. After a long while, the figures stopped searching and left. Daniel waited until the echoes faded completely before letting Mira and Leo relax. You see, he whispered, we survived. Clever thinking and calm moves. That is what humans do. Mira looked at him, amazed. You saved us, both of us. Daniel shook his head. We saved each other. Humans survive by helping each other. That is stronger than any machine or weapon. Leo smiled, finally relaxed. Can we rest now? Daniel nodded. They settled among the old crates, hiding in the shadows. The tunnels were silent again, but the danger had not disappeared. Mira's words echoed in Daniel's mind. Some of these hunters were not human. That meant they were patient, cruel, and without hesitation. Daniel knew that the next step would be harder. The tunnels were temporary refuge, but sooner or later, they would have to leave. Mira's father would eventually appear, and others who wanted her would not wait. Still, for the moment, they had survived another day. Daniel felt a flicker of pride. He was not rich, powerful, or trained as a soldier. He was a repairman, a father, a human. And for now, that was enough to keep them alive. Mira, resting quietly, finally allowed herself a small smile. Maybe there is more to humans than I thought, she said softly. Daniel nodded, looking at the dim tunnel lights. Yes, more than wealth, more than power. Courage, kindness, and quick thinking, that is what humans have. And it can surprise even the strongest. Outside, the city slept, unaware that in the dark tunnels below, 3 humans had faced the first true test of their survival. And beyond the walls, Distant ships and figures were already moving, preparing for the next encounter. The chase was far from over, and Daniel knew that the real danger had only begun. The tunnels were dark and silent, except for the faint drip of water from cracks in the walls. Daniel led Mira and Leo further into the abandoned transport system. He had been through these tunnels before, long ago, and remembered small hidden chambers where supplies and old machines were stored. These would be useful if they had to hide for a long time. Mira followed closely, carrying her bag with the floating device tucked carefully inside. She had learned to move quietly, her steps almost soundless on the metal and stone floors. Leo stayed close to Daniel, clutching a small tool he liked to keep for comfort. Daniel paused near a corner. "We should rest here for a while. We cannot keep moving without knowing if they are close." Mira looked around. The chamber was large, filled with broken drones, crates, and conveyor belts. Shadows stretched along the walls. "It is safe here?" she asked. "For now," Daniel said. "We need to stay quiet and be ready. They are persistent. They will search every possible hiding place." Leo sat down next to a pile of crates. "Can we play a game?" he asked, trying to ease his nerves. Daniel smiled softly. "Sure, but quietly. We cannot make any noise that can be heard outside." Mira watched Daniel and Leo with a small smile. Despite the danger, she felt a strange comfort. These people were poor, simple, and without fleets or guards, but they had courage and cleverness. She realized that perhaps this was the kind of strength that money and technology could never buy. As the children quietly moved the pieces of a small game across a flat metal panel, Daniel looked around the chamber, listening. There was a faint vibration in the tunnels, subtle but steady. He froze, eyes narrowing. "They are coming," he whispered. Mira and Leo immediately stopped. Mira's device floated quietly above her bag, its small lights dim. Daniel led them to a shadow near the wall. They crouched together, breathing slowly. From the far end of the tunnel, shadows appeared. Several figures in black suits moved silently but with purpose. Their scanners glowed faintly, sending out thin beams of light that swept over the walls and floors. Daniel's heart beat faster. He had no weapon, only his wits and tools. He had to act carefully. One figure moved closer, pausing near a broken drone. The scanner flickered as it detected something unusual. Daniel noticed that the group was using new technology, different from the scouts he had seen before. These were experienced trackers, and they moved with precision. He whispered to Mira, "Hide your device." Now, Mira lowered the floating star map back into her bag. The scanner passed near but did not pause this time. Daniel realized that if the device had been detected, they would be in immediate danger. Daniel motioned for Mira and Leo to follow him quietly along the shadows. He noticed an old maintenance door nearby. Its metal frame was rusted, but it could provide temporary shelter. They slipped inside, pressing against the back wall as the figures continued down the tunnel. The sound of scanners faded slowly. Daniel waited until he could no longer hear the soft hum of their devices. Then he allowed himself to breathe. "That was too close," he whispered. Mira looked at him. "They will not give up." "We cannot stay hidden for long." Daniel nodded. "Yes, we need a plan. We need to fight with our minds, not with weapons." He examined the room. Broken machinery was scattered everywhere. Old conveyor belts, half-finished drones, and crates of parts. An idea formed in his mind. They could use the old machines to create traps, distractions, and obstacles. He had repaired many devices in his life, and some of these could be repurposed quickly. "Leo," he said quietly, "I need you to help me." Gather the small motors and wires from those crates. Leo nodded eagerly, glad to be useful. Yes, Papa. Mira stepped closer. I can help too. I know some tricks from the ships. Even if these machines are old, we can make them work. Daniel looked at her. Good. We have to work fast. They will be back, and next time they will come with more. Together they moved quietly, assembling small devices from the broken machinery. Daniel instructed Mira and Leo on how to use the parts. They created simple alarms, noisemakers, and moving obstacles that could alert them to intruders. Hours passed. The three of them worked in silence, interrupted only by the occasional drip of water and the distant hum of city activity far above. Daniel felt a strange pride in their work. They were not trained soldiers or wealthy commanders, but their cleverness and courage gave them an advantage. Finally, they finished their preparations. Daniel checked each device carefully. This will give us some warning if they return, he said. It will not stop them entirely, but it may buy us time. Mira looked at him with admiration. You are very clever. Even without a fleet or guards, you make a strong defense. Daniel smiled softly. That is what humans do. We survive with what we have and we think fast. Courage and brains can be stronger than any weapon. Leo yawned. Can we rest now? Daniel nodded. Yes, but quietly. Stay alert, though. Danger is still out there. They settled into the corner of the chamber using broken crates as barriers. Mira tucked her device safely into her bag. Leo lay down next to Daniel, still clutching his small tools. Daniel watched over them, listening to the faint echoes of the tunnel. As night fell, the chamber grew colder and darker. Daniel kept watch, checking the traps they had set. The sound of distant movement occasionally reached them, making him tense, but no one approached too closely. Mira whispered, "Thank you for protecting me." Daniel, I never thought someone like you could be so brave. Daniel shook his head. You have courage too, Mira. You have faced danger and still think clearly. That helps more than you know. The hours passed slowly. Occasionally distant shouts or the hum of engines reminded them that the city above continued its life, oblivious to their struggle below. At one point, Mira looked at Daniel. Do you think my father will come? If he finds me, will he bring people to fight? Daniel thought carefully. I do not know. He is rich and powerful and people obey him. But he may not understand how humans live here. That is why he cannot be fully trusted. We must be ready for him and for anyone else who comes. Mira nodded silently. She understood. Even if her father came to rescue her, his arrival could bring new dangers. Daniel realized that her life was caught between two worlds, the wealthy, controlled life she had known, and the harsh, free life of the colony. Suddenly, a loud echo reverberated through the tunnel. Daniel froze. He motioned for Mira and Leo to stay low. From the far end, a shadow moved quickly. The figures in black had returned, faster and more aggressive this time. Daniel held his breath. He knew this was the real test. The traps they had set might give them time, but only if they acted cleverly. The first intruder stepped on a loose piece of metal. A loud clatter echoed through the chamber. Daniel's heart pounded. The intruder looked around, confused. A second step triggered a noisemaker, sending a small drone spinning in the air and emitting bright lights. The intruder shouted, and one of them activated a scanner. Daniel saw their confusion. They were experienced, but the clever use of old machinery had slowed them. He whispered, "Now, move." Mira, Leo, and Daniel slipped through a side passage deeper into the tunnels. The intruders tried to follow, but the obstacles forced them to slow down. Daniel realized that their cleverness and knowledge of the tunnels had given them an advantage. Finally, they reached a hidden chamber, larger and more secure than the last. Daniel closed the rusted metal door behind them. They were safe for the moment. Mira exhaled. "We survived," she whispered. Daniel nodded, exhausted but relieved. "Yes, for now. But we must keep moving. Danger is still out there, and next time they may be even smarter." Leo yawned. "Can we sleep now?" Daniel smiled. "Yes, for a little while. Rest now, because tomorrow we continue. And tomorrow we fight again if we must." They settled into the shadows of the chamber. Mira's device floated quietly above her bag, its lights dimmed to almost nothing. Daniel kept watch, alert and ready. Outside the tunnels, the city continued unaware of the struggle below, and somewhere far above, distant ships and figures were already moving, preparing for the next confrontation. Daniel realized that their journey was only beginning. They had survived the first true test, but the real danger was yet to come. He looked at Mira and Leo and felt a strange pride. They were ordinary humans, without wealth or power, but with courage, cleverness, and determination. And that, Daniel knew, could make even the most powerful people think twice. The night grew colder, the tunnels darker, and the three humans settled in silence, readying themselves for the challenges that awaited them in the days ahead. And somewhere far away, unseen by anyone in the tunnels, someone had already noticed Mira's disappearance, and the hunt was only growing more dangerous. Daniel, Mira, and Leo had been hiding in the tunnels for more than a day. The shadows of the abandoned chambers were their only protection, and every sound of movement above made their hearts race. Daniel had grown used to the darkness, his eyes scanning every corner, every rusted piece of machinery, ready for danger at any moment. Mira stayed close, careful with her floating device, knowing that one wrong signal could betray them. Leo, though tired, still clutched his small tools as if they were weapons, trusting his father to keep them safe. Daniel had spent hours observing the tunnels, trying to anticipate the movements of the black-suited intruders. He knew they were not ordinary humans. They were disciplined, trained, and relentless. They had not yet realized the full danger of the tunnels. Daniel had an advantage: knowledge of the twists and turns, the hidden chambers, the old ventilation shafts. He had grown up exploring similar tunnels long before Mira arrived, and he could use this to protect them. Suddenly, Mira spoke quietly. "They are coming again, Daniel. I can sense it." Daniel nodded. "Good. That gives us time to prepare." He began moving through the chamber, adjusting the traps they had set before. He checked the small devices that could trigger noise, light, or movement, making sure each was positioned to confuse intruders and give them time to escape if necessary. Leo looked at his father with wide eyes. "Do you think they will catch us?" Daniel shook his head. "No, not if we stay smart. We can be faster, smarter, and braver than they expect. Humans survive by thinking, not just by running." Mira listened quietly. "I wish I could do more. On the ships we have technology and fleets, but here we have nothing, only our minds and courage." Daniel smiled at her. "Then use them. Courage and thinking are the strongest weapons humans have. Trust me." Hours passed, and the tunnels remained quiet. The three of them ate small rations Daniel had brought and rested as best they could. But Daniel knew this calm was temporary. Someone as powerful as Mira's father would not wait long, and other hunters seeking profit would not give up. As evening fell, a low hum vibrated through the tunnels. Daniel froze, signaling Mira and Leo to be silent. From the far end, he saw the lights of ships descending slowly above the colony. The shadows on the walls shifted as if giant hands moved across them. Daniel realized that someone powerful had arrived. Mira's eyes widened. "It is him," she whispered. "My father. He came to find me." Daniel's mind raced. He had expected danger from the black-suited intruders, but now someone far more powerful had entered the city. Mira's father was not just rich, he commanded fleets, ships, and technology far beyond the colony's understanding. Daniel wondered what his intentions would be. Would he rescue her, or simply take her without care for the humans she had grown to trust? The ground vibrated slightly as a ship landed above the colony. Daniel, Mira, and Leo stayed low in the shadows, hidden behind crates and machinery. The sounds of movement were careful, controlled, and deliberate. Daniel realized that this was not a normal search party. These were trained elite operatives. Mira whispered, "He will come down soon. I can feel it. He is calm, confident. He expects me to obey, but I will not let him control me completely." Daniel nodded. "Then we must be ready. Stay close. Do exactly as I say." The sound of heavy footsteps approached. Daniel peeked through a gap in the crates and saw a tall figure step into the tunnel, followed by several others wearing sleek black uniforms with glowing devices. The intruders scanned the area, but the traps set by Daniel delayed them. One tripped on a loose cable, another paused at a moving crate, and small alarms flashed light in multiple directions. Daniel motioned for Mira and Leo to move silently through a hidden side passage. They slipped past the intruders while the confusion of the traps distracted them. The movements were precise and deliberate. Daniel felt a strange thrill. He had never faced such danger, yet his knowledge of machines and tunnels was giving them a chance to survive. They reached a larger chamber deep within the tunnels, one that Daniel had prepared long ago as a safe room. Broken machinery and crates provided natural cover. Daniel closed the rusted metal door behind them, securing it as best he could. Mira's device floated above her bag, dimmed to avoid detection. Mira looked at Daniel. "Do you think he will respect what we have done? That we survived on our own?" Daniel shook his head. "I do not know. But humans survive by cleverness and courage. That is stronger than money or power. He may have ships, but he cannot predict everything we can do here." Leo yawned, leaning against Daniel. "Will he hurt us if he finds us?" Daniel knelt beside his son. "No. I think he will be surprised. Surprised that someone ordinary can be clever and brave. That is the human way. He may have to respect it." Hours passed. Daniel kept watch, listening to distant movements above and below. Mira and Leo rested, but they were not asleep. They had learned that even a moment of carelessness could bring danger. Finally, Mira spoke quietly. "I want to thank you, Daniel. You risk everything for me. I never thought a poor repairman could be so brave and clever." Daniel shook his head. "We help each other. That is what humans do. You survived too. That helps more than anything else." A low hum vibrated again through the tunnels. Daniel stiffened. Outside, the sounds of ships descending and vehicles moving indicated that Mira's father had arrived fully. Daniel realized that the next encounter would not be a normal search. It would be a test of courage, cleverness, and human will. Mira's eyes were serious. "We have to be ready. He will not understand ordinary life. He will try to take control immediately. But I will not let him." Daniel nodded. "Then we meet him as humans, not as servants or objects. Courage, cleverness, and cooperation are our weapons. Remember that." Leo, though small, looked determined. "I will help too. I want to protect Mira." Daniel smiled at him. "Then we survived together." The vibrations grew stronger, echoing through the tunnels. Daniel realized that the next moments would define everything. The black-suited intruders were no longer the main danger. Mira's father and his elite forces were. They had arrived, calm, powerful, and confident, but they had not expected human courage and clever thinking. Daniel tightened his grip on his small tools and whispered to Mira and Leo, "Stay close. Watch, listen, and act. Humans survive by being smart, brave, and cooperative. We are humans. That is enough." The sounds of approaching boots, scanning devices, and shifting metal grew louder. The chamber's shadows danced in the dim light. Daniel, Mira, and Leo crouched ready for the arrival of the richest, most powerful human Mira had ever known. But Daniel knew one thing. Courage and cleverness could surprise even the strongest. The first figure stepped into the chamber. Daniel held his breath. The moment of truth had come. The story was no longer about hiding. It was about standing, thinking, and showing that ordinary humans could face even the greatest power with skill and courage. And somewhere above, the silver ship glinted under the colony lights, preparing to bring wealth, power, and expectation into a world that had survived without it, through courage, brains, and the unbreakable human spirit. The chamber was dark except for faint glows from Mira's device. Daniel, Mira, and Leo crouched behind crates, listening to the sound of heavy footsteps and scanning devices approaching. The air was thick with tension, and the faint vibration of the floor told them that someone powerful had entered the tunnels. Daniel's mind raced, knowing that Mira's father had arrived. The richest, most powerful man she knew was now here, and he expected obedience, not resistance. Mira whispered, "I can feel him. He is confident. He will not expect us to fight or hide." "But we can." Daniel nodded. "Then we do exactly that. We fight with our minds, not with weapons. We survive by being clever and quick." Leo clutched his small tools. "I want to help too," Daniel smiled faintly. "You will. Every little thing counts." The first figure appeared in the chamber, scanning carefully. Daniel motioned for Mira and Leo to stay low. The figure's scanning device flickered as it detected something unusual among the crates. Daniel held his breath, watching. The intruder moved closer, then paused, frowning. Daniel realized the traps they had set earlier were giving them a critical advantage: distraction and time. Suddenly, Mira's device emitted a tiny pulse, unintentional but soft. The figure stiffened, scanning again. Daniel whispered sharply, "Turn it off!" Mira quickly folded the device into her bag. The figure scanned again, confused, then moved on. Daniel exhaled slowly. They had survived the first approach. More figures entered, sleek and precise, carrying advanced scanners and devices. Daniel knew that these were not ordinary humans. They were elite forces trained for speed, precision, and control. But Daniel had the advantage of the tunnels, the shadows, and clever thinking. He motioned for Mira and Leo to follow him to a narrow side passage, barely visible behind old conveyor belts. As they moved, Daniel whispered, "We are not just hiding. We are leading them where we can control the situation. Every trap, every obstacle counts." Mira nodded. "I understand. Even if they are faster, we know the ground." They reached a larger chamber deep inside the tunnels, filled with broken machinery and crates. Daniel paused.
"Here," he said. "We set our final traps."
"This will slow them long enough for us to escape further if needed." Together, they moved quickly. Daniel instructed Mira and Leo on how to position small motors, loose wires, and broken parts to create noise, movement, and confusion. They worked quietly, every motion calculated. By the time they finished, the chamber was filled with silent obstacles ready to spring into action. Suddenly, footsteps echoed. The elite intruders had reached their previous chamber and were closing in. Daniel's heart pounded. This was the final approach. They had no more chambers beyond this one. It was now or never. Daniel whispered, "Stay calm. Move only when I signal. Remember, brains over brawn." The first intruder entered the chamber. A loose panel Daniel had positioned earlier clattered to the floor, startling the figure. Another tripped over a wire, triggering a small drone to spin and flash lights. The intruders shouted but moved carefully, trying to maintain order. Daniel motioned for Mira and Leo. They slipped along the shadows, deeper into the chamber, past the crates. Another intruder approached the obstacles, pausing as small alarms went off. The confusion was perfect. Daniel realized that the intruder's confidence was fading. They had not expected such clever traps. Mira whispered, "We are clever enough to survive this." Daniel nodded. "Yes, but we must keep moving, one step at a time." The intruders continued through the chamber, now cautious and slower. Daniel guided Mira and Leo toward a narrow ventilation shaft that led further into the tunnels, one he had remembered from old maps. It was tight and difficult, but it offered a way out. Leo hesitated. "It is small. Will we fit?" Daniel smiled. "Yes. I used to crawl here as a boy. Follow me, carefully." One by one, they slipped into the shaft. Daniel went first, guiding the children. Mira's floating device was tucked safely into her bag. The shaft was dark and narrow, the walls damp and cold. But Daniel's knowledge of the tunnels allowed them to move silently and quickly. Behind them, the sounds of frustrated intruders echoed through the chambers. Daniel knew they had delayed them enough to escape further. The tunnels twisted and turned, and Daniel led the children through hidden passages only he knew. Finally, they emerged in a larger, hidden chamber far from the main paths. It was quiet and dark, filled with old machinery, but it offered safety for now. Daniel checked the area carefully. "We are safe, for now," he said. Mira looked at him, exhausted but determined. "You saved us again. I never thought someone like you could be so clever." Daniel shook his head. "It is not about being clever alone. It is about courage, teamwork, and thinking fast. That is what humans do. That is what keeps us alive." Leo smiled, finally relaxed. "We did it together, Papa." Daniel nodded. "Yes, together." That is the important part. Humans survive together. Hours passed as they rested, quietly, preparing for the next move. Daniel knew that Mira's father could not be ignored. He had arrived, powerful and commanding. But Daniel's knowledge of tunnels, shadows, and traps had given them an advantage. The child's life, their lives, depended on cleverness, courage, and cooperation. Mira's device, now safe in her bag, glowed faintly. Daniel realized that one day it could bring danger or rescue. But for now, they relied only on their wits, their courage, and each other. Suddenly, Mira spoke. "We cannot stay here forever. They will search everywhere. But now we know we can survive, even against the strongest." Daniel smiled faintly. "Yes, humans survive. Not because of wealth or power, but because we think, act, and protect those we care about. That is stronger than any ship or fleet." Leo yawned. "Can we sleep now?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, but lightly. Keep your ears open. Danger is always near, but for now, rest." The three settled in the shadows, the faint hum of distant machinery their only sound. Daniel felt a strange pride. They were ordinary humans, without armies or advanced technology, yet they had survived encounters with trained elite forces. Courage, cleverness, and cooperation had been their strongest weapons. Outside in the colony above, the night was quiet, but distant lights of ships glinted in the sky. Someone powerful had noticed Mira's absence, and the hunt continued. But Daniel, Mira, and Leo had survived through brains, courage, and the unbreakable human spirit. Daniel whispered softly, "Tomorrow we continue. We survive. Together." Mira and Leo nodded, tired but determined. The tunnels were their refuge, their battlefield, and their classroom in human courage. And somewhere far above, the silver ship glinted under the colony lights, unaware that the strongest force it would encounter was not money, power, or fleets, but simple humans who refused to surrender. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, knowing that tomorrow the chase would continue. But now they were ready. They had survived, together, and nothing could take away that courage. The night stretched on, quiet and dark, but filled with the promise that humans could face even the greatest danger with cleverness, courage, and unity. And so, in the shadows of the tunnels, a poor repairman, a brave girl, and a small boy proved that even the most ordinary humans could defy the powerful, survive impossible odds, and continue forward, because being human was their greatest strength.